Hey everyone, welcome back. Redbeard here. Today I wanted to do a little talk about Archaon and how he could be reworked. His current implementation in the game is obviously lackluster. It's been that way. He hasn't really changed all that much besides getting a unique skill line since Warhammer 1 launched in 2016. So, there's three main points I want to address about Archaon specifically. Obviously, like things like the red skill line tree, the blue skill line, and just like the race mechanics. I'm not gonna go over that in this video because that doesn't pertain to Archaon and his faction specifically. That's what I'm talking about: Archaon's faction and him as a lord. So, three main points I want to talk about. First is Dorghar. So Dorghar in his current implementation is super lame. He basically is just like another chaos pony that just makes Archaon go a little bit faster. Yeah. So, if you don't know, the lore for Dorghar is that he is a shape-shifting demon. So, like in his true form, he's just like smoke and fire. But he can shift into any shape he wants, really. So, what I think should come is a mechanic where basically you have Dorghar's skill in Archaon's skill tree, but there's three nodes, so there's three skills you can spend on the Dorghar skill box. And the first one would be just like basically his current Dorghar's current implementation, a Chaos Steed that is basically the same. Big cool reskin. Just makes Archaon go faster. Although we already know that the regular Chaos Steed is getting a resize because people have complained about the Chaos ponies for a long time. So they're going to get a little bigger. So basically I imagine they're just going to be like just bulkier versions of what the Empire and Kislev have for horses. Oh yeah, and I hope you guys enjoy a little like kindergartner slides, because I don't have any sort of animation or graphic design background, so best I could do is paint. So anyways, you get the Chaos Steed around which is like Dorghar's current implementation at like level 5 or 6, because that's where about it belongs. That's how much it adds. But the next really interesting one that we could get is a Daemonic Steed version of Dorghar, which basically the Daemonic Steed is just a monstrous cavalry version of the Chaos Steed. If the regular Chaos Steed is like a kind of bulkier version of what Empire and Kislev have for horses, the Demonic Steeds are basically like a bulkier version of the Great Stags from the Wood Elves. Great on the charge with those horns and just their massive size. They'd be like the size of a moose, or maybe even a little bigger because they're chaos warped. They're demons So yeah, they'd have big, curved horns for ramming and goring, but they'd also have sharp canine teeth. I just think this would be a really, really cool option for Chaos and make their cavalry a little more substantial. I could also see the Swords of Chaos, Chaos Knight or ROR getting Demonic Steeds. I don't think for Demonic Steeds, maybe the Swords of Chaos and Lords can get them, but not Heroes or the regular Chaos Knights. They have to be more rare because they're actual demons. Also, quick shout out and honorable mention to the Karka Drak. It's basically like a chaos, a giant lizard that you can ride as a mount that comes from the Chaos Wastes. It's a Warriors Chaos unit in AOS. Technically, the Daemonic Steed is AOS too. If there's one race I definitively can say I want some AOS stuff in, it's the Chaos races. All the other races, I kind of, I don't. I'm definitely iffy on adding AOS stuff. But Chaos, specifically the Daemonic Steed, I mean, that is such a cool model. Archaon is cool too, but like that image, like, oh, can you imagine? So, but neither the Archaon or the Daemonic Steed, that whole middle purple node, that second node, is not as important as the green and blue options, especially the blue option. Don't get me wrong, the blue option never actually comes into fantasy. It's like a AOS thing, but at the same time, even though Dorghar pretty much just remains like a Daemonic Steed through fantasy and doesn't take any other form, that's just like Archaon's favorite version. But in AOS, he has the Chimarae. So Chimarae are units that would function like a manticore, like a larger manticore. Like the sizing would be between a manticore and a dragon. So it'd be like a manticore if a manticore was awesome. Firstly, it would have poison attacks, better melee stats, and really, really awesome animations than both, like with the three heads. They would all be attacking and eating, and there'd be like three tails that are whipping around, and it would be mayhem. Additionally, it would have 3 fire breath attacks like a dragon. Chimera units may also boost winds of magic, or like maybe spellcasters, within a 30-meter radius, get a reduction to their spells by like -1 or -2. There's a possible ROR unit for the Chimera called the Bloodshriek Chimera, whose skin is an ever-shifting pattern of bright colors and hues, turning translucent one moment before running like molten wax to cover and heal the rips and gashes in its tainted flesh the next. This meaning, besides a vibrant reskin, the ROR would get regeneration, or perhaps it would be better if all Chimera units had regeneration to make them a little more unique and powerful. I definitely think Archaon's Dorghar version would have regeneration, would have the breath attacks. But yeah, a Chimera sounds like a unit that is the mount of the Everchosen. Mind you, this is one of the preeminent war figures, the most powerful duelists, the most powerful, bar none, upper echelon characters in the Warhammer universe, which is full of like uber powerful people. Like, this guy doesn't mess around, and in his current implementation, he just does not feel that powerful or unique. So this is the big first thing, I think, that probably the most important thing to making him feel like the Everchosen. A mount, not just a horse, a monstrous mount that makes him feel powerful. It would have, again, regeneration, fire breath attacks, poison, dirtier in melee combat, or with its melee stats and animations than a dragon or a manticore. Yeah, in conclusion, just give Dorghar 3 different shapes. The regular one that he has now, a Daemonic Steed, and then a Chimera. The most important one is a Chimera. I mean, that's the mount. That's the mount that's going to make him feel like the Everchosen, not some pony. It's basically a dragon, but it has regeneration, and may boost winds of magic. It's basically a more powerful dragon. It's really, it's a cool unit. I'd really enjoy that, for sure. Like a level 20, no earlier, because it'd be very powerful. And it should be, he's the Everchosen. And just having those different flavors would just make Dorghar feel like a shapeshifter. Be more true to his lore, and a lot more unique as a mount. Okay, on to the second big thing that needs to be revamped with Archaon is his spells. So currently he is exclusively a Lore of Fire caster, and he does not have an Arcane Conduit at all. So he can actually lorefully cast from the fire, the lores of fire, death, shadow, metal, and Tzeentch. So I think he should get a rework of his skill tree. Well, he's going to need a whole bunch of reworking in his skill tree. The red and blue skill lines are going to come with the race. Same as his yellow line, probably. His melee line. But then he's gonna have a big skill tree. Because he's going to have a passive skill line for all of those lores. Again, fire, death, shadow, metal, Tzeentch. All of those passives. Which, if you can see right here, fire is going to pair very nicely with Tzeentch. So I think he should be getting at least 1 or 2 Tzeentch spells, particularly the blue fires, the pink horror, or the pink fires, of Tzeentch, or the Tzeentch's Firestorm, because all of those spells apply Warp Flame. So when you combine Warp Flame and the Lore of Fire passive, I think that makes for 35 if they stack. I think they should. I think they should stack. So that's a 35% reduction, or that's how much more fire damage enemies are going to take. So basically, if you got a blue fires of Tzeentch, you cast it, target an enemy, and then right after that, either send a fireball or a flame storm to that unit and just watch them burn. So yeah, some bound spells he could get in it. So he would get innately. So this is directly based off of Teclis. So I also based his skill tree, which will be the next slide, off of Teclis. Now he's definitely not as powerful as a caster as Teclis. Teclis is up there with like Croak and Nagash, and Archaon is he's the Everchosen. He's got 5 lores of magic. He's up there, but he's not in that top tier of spellcasters. But he's up there. So anyways, he'd get 4 bound fireballs, just innately. And then at the end of his spell skill tree, he gets 2 bound blue fires of Tzeentch, which again applies Warp Flame, and pairs nicely with fire spells. But the fireballs get plus 2 uses, so 6 uses in total. But that is paired with the skill at the end of the spell skill tree that gives you the 2 bound blue fires of Tzeentch. So my thoughts are, you have the now it doesn't even have to be blue fires of Tzeentch. You could replace that with the pink fire or the Tzeentch's Firestorm. But I chose blue fires particularly because you can more easily target an enemy. And it has bigger range. So you could hit somebody with your blue fires and then immediately again follow it with, so you get Warp Flame. So that's up 15% reduction to flame resistance, but then you have the Lore of Fire passive already that gives 20%. So again, that makes 35%. So you follow up the blue fires with either a fireball, a burning head, or a flame storm, and just incinerate enemies. So yeah, if you looked at Archaon's skill tree, there should be the upper row. There should be his unique skill, a skill line, then the melee skill line, then his spell list, which I'll get to in the next slide, and then his passive skill line, then his red skill line, then his blue skill line, which is going to be a stuffed skill line. But he's the Everchosen, so of course it should be that way. Yeah, so for his passive skill line, now Teclis has like his whole unique skill line is all about magic. I did kind of look at Teclis's line to create this, but Archaon's passive skill line would not be as powerful. First off, Teclis has like 8 or 9 passive skills, something like that. Whereas Archaon would just get the ones we've already mentioned: Tzeentch, Fire, Death, Shadows, Metal. But his like break-in skill, there would be 2 nodes. This is just my ideas for it, at least. There'd be 2 nodes. The first one just breaks you into the passive skills. That would be the Earthing one, which is just miscast base chance reduction. Second node in there, which you could bypass for a little while to get those passive skills earlier, or you could spend the skill point and get the magical reserves, which is what Winds of Magic's power reserve plus 15. Then at the end of the skill line, we could have Greater Arcane Conduit. I think he is deserving of a Greater Arcane Conduit. He can cast from 5 different lores, for God's sake. But he doesn't even have regular Arcane Conduit right now, which is a shame. So at least he should at least get the regular Arcane Conduit. But I think he is the Everchosen. Okay, if there's one character you can go over OP with, it's him. So Greater Arcane Conduit, I think, is definitely deserving. Then after that skill, you could have... so Teclis has Manifold Sorcery, which is at 20% reduction to the cost of all spells. Now, maybe that's a little too powerful for Archaon, so he could have his own unique version of Manifold Sorcery. That would be like negative... that would reduce the cost by like 10 or 15% instead of the 20. I think that would be... that skill line right there would be really, really nice. Now on to the big daddy, the spell line I chose out for him. So it doesn't have to be exactly this, obviously. It might not be exactly this, obviously. But this is just what I think would be a good spell lineup, giving the 5 lores of magic of, again, Tzeentch, Fire, Metal, Death, Shadows. Given that lineup, let's give him a good spell line. So first off, Searing Doom, as the spell he gets automatically. All the spells would get just 2 upgrades. So you don't have to, like other powerful, kind of top tier spellcasters, you don't have to put 3 nodes into a spell block or spell skill, 3 skills into a spell to fully upgrade it. Just 2. So Searing Doom. Also, I put in parentheses the amount of Winds of Magic it costs. So yeah, bear with me with this whole chicken scratch, looks like a 5th grader wrote it on concrete look with chalk. It's literally the best I could do. I'm not like a animator or graphic designer, so again, I put the amount of magic each one costs though in parentheses. So Searing Doom, only 6 Winds of Magic, nice little starter spell, and it has a real aesthetic that goes along with being the Everchosen, just raining down like shards of metal. It's a pretty good starting spell too. Then we go into Teclis just has 1 block of spells, and most of the high spellcasters do. Maybe Archaon still has to have the evasion skill in the middle to break into those 2 final spells, or not. I could see it going either way. Doom and Darkness would be the first one though. 10 Winds of Magic, lowers leadership by 16. So you want a unit to break off, Doom and Darkness. If units kind of teetering, holding on too long, Doom and Darkness, and then they're routing. Next, so that's from the Lore of Death. Then we have Glean Magic from the Lore of Tzeentch. So I think Archaon is like the preeminent Fire Lord, right? I mean, when I think of the Lore of Fire, I think of Burning Head and Flamestorm, and when I think of those spells, I think of Archaon, right? I think he's the only fire caster legendary lord off the top of my head. So I don't want him to lose that feeling, because the the few golden memories I have with Archaon are just like connected to the lore of fire. So I think he should still have like fireballs, burning heads, flame storms. So let's just keep those spells, and we'll take out all the other fire spells that we're probably not going to use anyways. But again, pairing some Tzeentch with fire spells is really powerful. So first off, Glean Magic, 8 winds of magic cost, and it's got a really different, nice niche in this spell list, because you sap winds of magic reserve from an enemy spellcaster and give it to yourself, basically. So that's a nice one for a powerful spellcaster, right? Next, Enfeebling Foe, just 6 winds of magic. Really useful when doing duels. So it lowers melee attack and melee defense by -24. Really useful in duels, and Archaon's going to do a lot of duels in his time. Then we have Burning Head. Oh, that's from the lore of Shadows, by the way. Burning Head. Next, 11 winds of magic cost. If you played Archaon before, you know what Burning Head is. You know, it's basically a wind spell, like a Wind of Death spell. Strafe shot. Very powerful against enemies with low armor. Then again, maybe this is where the point where we have to spend a point on evasion to get to the next 2 spells, or not. So next we would have Final Transmutation. So that's target an enemy or a group of enemies and drop that. Very 18 winds of magic. It's a very powerful but very costly spell. Alternatively, maybe you get Spirit Leech in the beginning of the spell line and something else here, but I like Final Transmutation. Feels like a very, his Archaon spell line should feel very aggressive, right? He's the Everchosen. He's here to bring the end of the world. His spell line should feel very aggressive, and Final Transmutation has a nice niche in that. Then, lastly, of course, we have Flamestorm. Again, that is the quintessential Archaon spell, right? Just get a nice blob of enemies and pop Flamestorm and just tons of damage. At least if they're low armor enemies like Skaven or Empire or something like that. They are just going to get incinerated. And it's going to be awesome. 15 winds of magic at its base. Then, after you get, enough skill points or whatever, you break into the final box, which is... the tech list has 2 bound spells of the Phoenix spell, that Phoenix strafe spell. I forget what it's called. Phoenix King, Fire the Phoenix King, something like that. Instead, like we were talking about, Archaon, we get 2 bound uses of Blue Fires of Tzeentch, just like tech list gets 2 bound Fire the Phoenix King or whatever. And just like tech list gets 2 additional bound fireballs. Maybe Archaon gets 3 fireballs initially and then just gets 1 additional use, just to kind of highlight that tech list is a more powerful spellcaster. But I mean, again, Archaon, when you think of a fire caster, you think of Archaon. So having as many bound fire spells, I would like, but I could see it being less. I would still want 2 bound Blue Fires of Tzeentch, so it's the end of the skill tree, and the whole, again, you could trade Blue Fires of Tzeentch for Pink Fire or the Tzeentch's Firestorm. The whole idea of putting the 2 bound Tzeentch spells is to get that Warp Flame contact effect. Yeah, so you could interchange any of them. Again, I just think Blue Fires would be best, so you could target specifically who you want to. And it's a pretty powerful fire spell. It's 5 fireballs in one that also apply Warp Flame. It's pretty darn powerful. Yeah, so that pretty much wraps up his skill tree. Again, it could be a different variation of this, but I think this spell line is very powerful and very Archaon feeling. Now for the kind of golden child of the three. This one, like the spells in Dorghar, I'm sure like other people I've seen talking about on forums. So I think everybody has probably had similar thoughts in regards to Archaon and those two things. And for those two things, it's almost assured that Archaon will get some sort of rework in there. Let's hope. I really hope they have some extra form of Dorghar and that, you know, Archaon gets representation of all 5 of the lores he should be able to cast. But yeah, I've had a special idea for a mechanic for the Everchosen. So it could just be Archaon's unique faction mechanic, but it could also be for like Wulfric or the Demon Prince formerly known as Yuri, or Be'lakor if they take ownership of the Everchosen title by defeating Archaon. Maybe they could get this mechanic too, but mostly I just like it as like Archaon's faction mechanic. So it would be called either Archaon's Lieutenants or Everchosen's Lieutenants, and basically it's just a jerry-rig rip off of the Wolfheart's Hunter's mechanic. I think that mechanic is so awesome and can be reused, and I think in no other better lord than Archaon with his lieutenants. That's one of like his big things of his story, is like gathering all these different tribes of chaos and demons to his banner. And he's the undivided. This goes a long way to help him be represented as the leader of undivided chaos. Okay, so instead of 4 legendary heroes, though, you would get 5 pseudo-legendary lords. And by pseudo-legendary lord, I mean like, you know, how the Vampire Coast have their tech tree pseudo-lords. The Greenskins have Oglok the Terrible and Rachnik Spiderclaw, those 2 tech pseudo-legendary lords. Who else? Right now, the Red Duke and Boris are both pseudo-legendary lords. What's his face? The evil tree guy. Dryka can get him. What's his name? That guy. I can't remember his name right now. He's a pseudo-legendary lord. Basically, I just think pseudo-legendary lords is something that I think the more we start using, because we're never going to see everybody in legendary lord form, right? We can see so many more characters out of this game if they start implementing more legendary heroes, and not only that, but pseudo-legendary lords. So this mechanic would bring in 5 pseudo-legendary lords specifically for either the Everchosen, but particularly Archaon. So firstly, let's go through that, because Archaon names 5 of his top lieutenants to be his herald for each monogod, and then ultimately undivided. They all lead their own great hosts of chaos individually representing Archaon, and they would all, since they're pseudo-legendary lords, I would hope they would get at least a little bit of a semi-unique skill line for each of them. Doesn't have to be too crazy, but just one line. Like, you know how legendary lords get their unique line. Just like, make it a Slaaneshi Chaos Lord, but it has one couple unique skills just for that character. But yeah, about each of the lords. So for Undivided, we would have Vardek Crom the Conqueror, Archaon's top general and his most powerful and loyal follower. Crom would focus more on mortals than the other lieutenants, and may even get some Norscan units, seeing as he leads the cool tribe of the Kurgans. He would reduce upkeep for his army and buff units more so than other lieutenants, and would be the strongest duelist, save for perhaps Haargroth. Feytor would probably be close to. They'd all be good duelists, because I don't think any of them would be spellcasters. But more to that later. No magic or mounts for Crom. to speak of, but he should at least get a Chaos Steed or Chaos Chariot. Perhaps he could have a Daemonic Steed, if we get those, hopefully, so he can roll like Archaon and his boys. Or perhaps he could get a Gore Piece Chariot or a Chaos Dragon to be more unique. Just spitting ideas. Haargroth was Archaon's champion and general of Khorne. Once he was a mighty Jarl of the Greyling tribe in northern Norska. His longships plundered the Empire, Batonia, and even Nagaroth and Lustria. His axe was a demon weapon of Khorne, bound with the essence of a bloodthirster. His unique weapon could possibly give him a bloodthirster summon, besides incredible weapon strength. As far as demons, he would have an extra selection of Khorne demons, just like every of the Mono God lieutenants here would have. But yeah, possibly he would focus on buffing Chaos Warriors, maybe Skull Crushers. He wore the skin of a Beastman, so that could be a unique item. Plus, could also, Bray Shamans do the same thing, right? They wear the skins of the defeated Beastman Lords, and that's why the Bray Herd follows them. So maybe he could buff Minotaurs of Khorne or Khorne Gores if we eventually get those. Cross the fingers for all the best marked best of Gores. Haargroth has no mounts to speak of either. Common theme here with these lieutenants. But I would like it if he had got at least the Chaos Steed of Khorne, but maybe a Skull Crusher, hopefully. Could also get like a Chaos Chariot of Khorne, or maybe a Gorebeast Chariot of Khorne. Any of those would work. Then we have Feytor the Tainted. Feytor the Tainted was Archaon's champion and general of Nurgle. Known for hunting beasts and besting other Norscan champions in duels, he eventually seized control over the Norse tribe known as the Wolf Brothers. It was known that disease and famine would follow any surrounding tribes that did not submit to him. So perhaps he could have a unique raiding stance like Morgor that caused attrition to enemy armies in the same region. His spear does not currently have a name, but could give him strong weapon strength and anti-large. No mounts that we know of, but like Haargroth could receive a Chaos Steed, a Chaos Chariot, maybe like a Plague Beast Chariot if we get something like that, a Plague Toad, or obviously a Rotfly, or if we get Rot Beasts, cross the finger, Rot Beasts, or a Rot Beast. Feytor might buff Chaos Warriors or other Immortal Nurgle units, not too demon focused as far as the little Loriaz goes. So, then for Tzeentch, this guy's really interesting. Melekh the Changer is Archaon's champion and general of Tzeentch. Once a humble blacksmith of the Aisling tribe, but would eventually go to the Chaos Wastes, searching for a Lord of Change named Zerich. He would enslave an army of gibbering horrors, flickering flamers, and screamers. He rode a disc of Tzeentch into the realm of Tzeentch. The Lord of Change, Zerich, was defeated he defeated him, and then the Lord of Change submitted to Melekh, gifted him an enchanted blade, then sent Melekh and his army of demons back to the mortal world. This might mean Melekh could summon a Lord of Change to the battlefield, as well as pink horrors like the Cultists of Tzeentch. Hero already can. He is not stated to be a caster, but being a Lord of Tzeentch, maybe he gets a few bound spells. I mean, that wouldn't hurt, He is Tzeentch champion after all. He would certainly buff the demons of Tzeentch, I've already mentioned before, but may also buff Doom Knights as his personal guard of Disc Riders. Could possibly have like a stronger version of like a single fire bombardment version of the ROR Doom Knights, what they have. Could get Melekh could get a Chaos Steed as a mount prior to the disc, which he would assuredly get, because we know he has that. Zerich nearly killed Melekh, but when he submitted, when Zerachgor submitted to Melekh, he instantly healed all of Melek's wounds, meaning Melekh also may get regeneration. One last note in that his blacksmith origin may mean he buffs the army, the armor of the units in his army. Well, lastly, we got Slaanesh with 2 possible lieutenants. So there's Vandred the Majestic. He was the first until Styrkaar of the Swords Veneer killed him. As I discussed in my 4 Champions predictions video, Styrkaar could possibly be a legendary lord, taking him out of this mechanic. Vandred is basically a less cool version of the Kala, and his serpentine body fits the Warriors of Chaos less than Styrkaar anyways. Vandred is a half-serpent duelist. He's got 4 arms, and they're all holding, like, blades, scimitars, something. If he did have to take the spot for Styrkaar, maybe he could be a spellcaster of Slaanesh or Shadows to make him more interesting. Styrkaar is the Slaaneshi Chad that killed Vandred and took his spot, leading Archaon's army of Slaanesh. Styrkaar was a marauder champion of the Norscan tribe of the Swords Veneer. From birth, he was accompanied by a Slaaneshi demon named Slezuzu in secret. Nobody else in the tribe could see him. Only he could see the demon and talk to it. As he grew, the demon whispered in his ear, getting him free of troubles that he got in and gaining him popularity when he would repeat what the demon told him to say to others. Eventually, Slaanesh would bind Slezuzu with Styrkaar, twisting his form and granting him powers. Or further power, like his teeth grew long and sharp and all this stuff. Slaaneshi mutations. He was known to wander the Chaos Wastes on a serpent of Slaanesh, seeking other warbands to conquer. So, hopefully, if we saw Styrkaar, we would be seeing serpents of Slaanesh in the game and a monstrous cavalry version of it, which, so he could buff Pleasure Seekers and Pleasure Knights. Pleasure Seekers being demonettes on serpents, and Pleasure Knights being Chaos Knights on serpents. Otherwise, he would just buff Chaos Warriors. Maybe I don't know, demonettes or just the Marauders. I don't know. He could possibly have Keeper of Secrets summon due to being infused with Slezuzu, a demon. In light of the greater demon summons that I think most of these lieutenants would get, maybe Feytor the Tainted should also get a great unclean one to bring him in line. Vardek could get some love here in having 1 summon of every lesser demon unit. Or maybe like later on he could pick 1 of the greater demons. But yeah, this mechanic is surely not coming because they've so here's what we know. Here's what we know. The CA said Archaon is receiving new combat animations. So hopefully that means he's getting a new mount option as well. Like hopefully that's a cue to that, or clue to that. Then we know that Archaon is getting a new selection of spells based on tabletop and updated items and abilities. Personally, his items and abilities seem fine to me, unless they're talking about Dorghar, which is technically one of the 6 treasures of chaos that he has to get to become Everchosen. So yeah, I think we're going to see something along the lines of my spell predictions. But then we also know that there will be no new mechanics except for Archaon. He'll have no new mechanics per se, except buffs for having vassals, basically. So, from what it sounds like, it's basically every time he vassalizes somebody new, he gets a buff, and those buffs he gets consecutively for vassalizing factions gives the buffs he gets will stack, is what it sounds like. And yeah, Warriors of Chaos will be able to mark units and they will visually change, so that tells us a lot about a lot. That means like Chaos roster is like quadrupling, which is amazing. Amazing. But yeah, so, but the mechanic idea, so, I mean, from what they said, it sounds like Archaon isn't getting his own unique mechanic. That this is definitely that. This isn't coming. So, modders, if you think you have the ability to make this mod and are interested, please contact me and I will help write up the objectives and quests or whatever I can do to help. I don't know how to create new assets these lords and this mechanic would require. Like, you would just have to jerry-rig the Wolf Hearts Hunter's UI and mechanics, if that's possible, but then you would need to create unique models for each of these 5 lords and possibly animations. I mean, I'm sure you could probably just... You might not have to make new animations. You would need to design a semi-unique skill tree for each, and then possibly add in a quest battle for each. If you can make this happen, modders, contact me and I will help however I can. I would even consider paying you to help me in this venture. So please, modders, let me know. So that's all I have for this video. Hope you guys enjoyed. If you agree with me, let me know. If you think these are good ideas. If maybe you would bring some different spells, or if you kind of like the Archaon's Lieutenant's mechanic, what you think, or how you would change it or see it, and what you want to see out of Dorghar as well. Yeah, comment, let me know. Yeah, like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff. Yeah, help a brother out. Anyways, hope you have a great day. Goodbye. Oh, and P.S. Just kidding, I'm not leaving just yet. Kordel Shorgaar is Archaon's bannerman. He's the bannerman for the Swords of Chaos. Archaon's elite cavalry, bodyguard type crew, the best of the best. Kordel Shorgaar is a very powerful champion. He should be an exalted hero, legendary hero for Archaon. Okay, that's it.